Now it's on to the main event, which I'm glad we're able to get to. Let me introduce you to Gregory S Phillips, Director of Aviation, Colorado Springs Airport. Greg Phillips serves as Director of Aviation for the Colorado Springs Airport. He is an instrument-rated commercial pilot and holds an engineering degree from West Point. Yay, West Point. Greg earned his wings as a helicopter pilot and Army Ranger. Thank you for your service, Greg. Following military service as an officer in the Army, he worked as an engineering project manager for Boeing and as a civil engineer and program manager for the Federal Aviation Administration. While at the FAA, he served as deputy program manager during the design and construction of the Denver International Airport. He has served in executive positions at 5 airports, beginning with the Bend Municipal Airport in Oregon, where he was named Oregon Airport Manager of the Year. He served as deputy director of the Missoula, Montana International Airport, as airport director in Wenatchee, Washington.
Wenatchee.
Yep. Thank you, Greg.
These tongue twisters.
Right on. I appreciate that. And as the Vail Eagle County Regional Airport Executive Director before assuming his current role in Colorado Springs. Greg additionally serves as first vice president of the Northwest Chapter Board of Directors for the American Association of Airport Executives. He is an accredited airport executive, a senior fellow in the Council for Excellence in Government, and an active member of the Colorado Airport Operators Association. Outside of work, he is an avid bicyclist and a longtime alpine ski race coach. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Greg Phillips.
Does Rodney, do you do that to everybody there? Thank you all.
Just for you, brother.
Man, it's great to see all of you here. And I'm thrilled at the opportunity to visit with you and talk about the airport. Now, some of you came on, we were talking right at noon, since some of you came on a little later. So I've just got to say, if you hadn't followed it and you joined when we were talking about bonnets and wondered what the heck that was all about, the sesquicentennial for the city of Colorado Springs is this July, this summer, 150 years. And the mayor is asking all male children to grow beards. So I'm at that awkward beard stage right now. So, but if you wondered, that doesn't look anything like a picture on the Rotarian website. Well, I want to share with you what's going on at the airport because it is a pretty exciting time. And I actually have a PowerPoint, and it'll shock you, I'm sure. And I'm going to put that up on the screen so that we can talk about it. So can just to get a thumbs up from a couple of people. It
looks perfect, sir. Looks perfect.
That's awesome. Okay, great. So how many of you have heard that there's a new player in town? So as of March 11th, the airport now has 5 major airlines. So, you know, we've always been proud of the great relationship we've had with United American, Delta, and Frontier. But on March 11th, we started service with Southwest Airline. So what that gives us is, you can see on this slide, 8 cities, 10 different airports, because in Chicago and Dallas, we have service to 2 different airports in each of those cities. We also now have 34 departures, and you can see the number of seats. And the bottom one, I think, is important because what it means is that the average size of aircraft at Colorado Springs is going up. So what we're seeing now is with Southwest, because they only fly Boeing 737, what we tend to call mainline flights, mainline aircraft, that our overall seat count has gone up. And this is what it looks like on the map. So if you look at the cities that we serve, you can see that we have, you know, from Colorado Springs, pretty good coverage across the country, but there are some obvious gaps, and you see those. But adding Southwest has done something significant for us. and it's this right here. If you can see that, you can see this is our daily seats. And as particularly as we hit 2020 and the coronavirus, the pandemic, took hold at airports all across the country, the impact on Colorado Springs Airport was that we dropped in March down to a point that when the full month of April was counted, we had about 7% of the service we had in April of 2019. So, that was a big hit, and that was pretty much the picture all across the country. So the pandemic has had a huge impact on air service. And what that meant to the Colorado Springs Airport was that, particularly in those early months, we were losing about $1 million a month of lost revenue. So we were fortunate though, and we were fortunate because we paid off all our debt at Colorado Springs Airport in 2018. And so because we had no debt, we had almost 1.5 years of days cash on hand in our reserves. So even if we lost all revenue, we could still cover our payroll, keep our employees working, and do the things we needed to keep the airport open, because the airport never closed in the entirety of the pandemic. I'm sure you all know that. And what we were able to do then with our budget in place, and then with federal funding that did come to sort of the rescue, I guess, of airports across the country, is to ensure that we could continue to provide the high level of service that's important to us and make sure that we're taking care of our passengers while we work through this. So look at the very end of that chart, and you can see what has happened since March 11th of this year, 2021, when Southwest started. I mean, literally overnight from March 10th to March 11, we went from a typical number of passengers and people through the TSA checkpoint in 2019 was about 25 to 2,800. What we saw in the pandemic was a low of 296 people, I think it was, on April 18th of 2020. So we were averaging about 40 to 45% traffic through the latter months of 2020. But what we see now, literally on day one, March 11th, is the highest number of daily seats going out of Colorado Springs than we've had since August of 2008. So this is another kind of a picture of that. You see seats per departure. I mentioned that the aircraft were larger. So, we see that, and that goes all the way back to 2005, because since Western Pacific left in the mid 90s, 97, 98, we've seen mostly regional jets, smaller aircraft, the ones that everybody loves, right? So at the airport, but we are seeing a lot more mainline service out of Colorado Springs right now. And so Southwest Airlines, I'm not sure if many of you saw the report that was in the Gazette and the article that talked about how we got Southwest here, but it was a heck of a journey. And this community has been talking to Southwest Airlines for 20 years to try to get them to provide service to Colorado Springs. Some of you may have followed that path along the way. I know Lola has, and others. And the pandemic actually did have a bright side, and that it has forced the airlines to rethink their model, rethink how they work and what they do. And that led Southwest in this particular case to think about and talk about what other revenue opportunities are out there. What have they not looked at hard enough or taken action on in the past? Southwest last couple of years have been focused on trying to build service from the mainland to Hawaii. And because of that, they weren't really looking at a lot of other cities. But the pandemic forced them to do that. When we met with them in the 1st of October, they said they were losing $17 million a day. And so cutting costs was part of the equation. For all of you that run a business, you know this. You look for ways to cut costs, but you look for ways to increase revenue too. And that's what Southwest did. So they came out here on October 1st and 2nd, visited with us for 2 full days, a day at the airport and a day out in the community. And at the end, got back with us about a week later and said that they'd like to provide service. And what they have done here is something pretty remarkable. And I want you all to understand that. So hang on here. Uh-oh. Give me a sec. There we go. Okay, can everybody see that again?
Yes, sir. It looks
So-
great.
Yeah, sorry. So the, this is what makes Southwest so great, isn't it? Their service, the fact that it's service with a smile, the transparency, the fact that bags fly free. And that's why there's such a following around Southwest. And we're really thrilled to have them here. But what they've brought to our market is this 13 daily nonstop flights every single day. So the 5 destinations that you see on the map right here, Chicago Midway, not versus Chicago O'Hare, Dallas Love Field, not Dallas Fort Worth, Denver, Vegas, Phoenix. So those 5 destinations, and those 5 destinations service their network of almost 110 different destinations all over the country. By passenger volume, Southwest is the largest carrier in the United States, and one of the 4 what we call legacy carriers: American, Delta, United, and Southwest. So why those 5 destinations, you ask? Because we already have Vegas, Phoenix, Dallas, Chicago, and Denver. So why those 4? This map there, this slide shows the story that these are their busiest airports in the country. So you can see by the red boxes, those are the airports that are serving out of Colorado Springs, and that's 5 of the top 6 airports that they serve. The only one that's not served in that top 6 is Baltimore. So if you think about it this way, they brought 13 daily flights here, and they have announced in the course of the pandemic, Southwest has now added or announced 17 new cities that they're providing service to or from. And of those 17 cities, there are only 3 that are getting any more service than Colorado Springs: Chicago O'Hare, Houston, the George Bush Intercontinental, and Miami International. Colorado Springs is getting more service than every other airport they've named. And I think you can, you understand or recognize the difference in size between O'Hare and Colorado Springs. And guess what? They're not getting that many more flights than us. We have 13, they have 16 or 18 daily flights, depending on the airport. So Southwest has put a lot of faith in this community. And now is our chance as a community to make them successful. Because as I know Dana and Aiden have heard me say, if there are half full flights leaving out of Colorado Springs, this is going to be a pretty short-lived experiment. And I know none of us want that. It doesn't mean we love any less our other carriers, American, Delta, United, or Frontier, but we have a new carrier here and we want them to be successful. So I want to give you kind of a picture that may help illustrate that a little bit. We looked at the 5 different destinations and we said, all right, if you went to one of those 5 destinations, because I know not everybody's going to Vegas or Phoenix or Dallas or Chicago, Denver. What if I'm trying to get to Philadelphia? What if I'm trying to get to San Francisco? Can I use those flights? Well, sure you can. Dallas Love Field has with 3 daily nonstops from Colorado Springs to Dallas Love Field, What we call easy connections is a reasonable hour to hour and a half connection time. You know, not I got to Dallas now, I have to sit there for 5 hours before my connection. You can connect to 28 destinations. I'm going to go through these kind of quick here, but look at this, Chicago Midway. So just from those two destinations, if you're willing to take the one stop, you can connect virtually all over the East from Colorado Springs. Looking west, Vegas, Phoenix. And now you may ask to yourself, say self, why in the world is Southwest connecting to Denver? It's because of this. Denver has become the largest focus city. They don't call them hubs, but focus city for Southwest in the country. It has overtaken Chicago Midway, overtaken Dallas Love Field there. And so because of that, yes, it's a short hop. If anybody's done that before, either on United or on Southwest, you know, the flight itself is about 15 minutes, but it connects you then east and west all across the country. So the bottom line is, from these 5 key destinations, you can connect with a one-stop to over 80 different cities in the Southwest network. And because Southwest's model and what they're providing Colorado Springs is multiple flights to each destination every day, you know, 4 flights daily to Denver. You know, we saw 2 to Phoenix, 2 to Vegas, 2 to Midway, and 3 to Dallas. There you have the opportunity to try and make the flights fit your schedule. All right, so that's Southwest. We are excited as we can be that they're here. And what we have seen, as I showed in the chart that showed how the seats have gone up, we've gone from about 12 to 1,300 people through the checkpoint every day to 2,500 to 3,300 people through the checkpoint. Last Sunday, we had more people go through our TSA checkpoint, and we just use that because we can get an immediate count on that faster, and we can get feedback direct from the airlines. But we had more people go through the checkpoint last Sunday than any day in 2020, and all but 2 days in 2019 pre-COVID. So we're in for a new normal at Colorado Springs. And this is a really, really tremendous addition. What I would say is transformational, a real game changer for our community. And remember, not only did we add these destinations and the connections, this is a whole new network of flights. So now there are 5 different airlines that you can use to fly out of Colorado Springs. What are we seeing from that? We're seeing lower fares. We're seeing more opportunity. We're seeing more people flying. So that's a pretty cool thing. We're pretty ecstatic about that right now. Of course, it was a little ironic that we started on Thursday, March 11th. We had 2 good days of service, and then the whole Colorado aviation world shut down for the big snowstorm. I will note, though, Denver closed down the airport. Colorado Springs never closed the airport. We didn't get hit quite as hard, but we still had flights go out. Some flights go out both days. So what is it as an airport that we do? Well, one of the things that we try and do, and this was the benefit of paying off our debt, is by not having big projects out there with big debt, we're able to lower our cost. And by lowering our cost to the airlines, we make it easier for, as I like to say, to make an airline say yes to COS. And that means that, as you see on this chart, it's a little outdated, but you can see back in 2013, our cost per enplanement, which means what an individual pays when you buy your ticket, how much actually goes to the airport, was a little over $13. So when you bought a $250 ticket that's going, on United cross country, there, that's how much you were paying to the airport. We've worked to cut that by paying our debt off and by using smart management to keep our costs low. And that is a primary goal of the Colorado Springs Airport, is to keep our costs down. And you can see this comparison with the red line in Denver and where their costs are. So it costs an airline about a third as much to operate out of Colorado Springs Airport as it is out of Denver. So I love this. And some of you, I'm sure, have seen this. Hopefully, most of you have seen this. That our branding as of last year is as Colorado's small airport. Now, you may ask yourself, why do we want to be known as Colorado's small airport? Well, we're not Denver. There's no shock there, no surprise. But as Colorado's small airport, we can offer something that an airport like Denver, as important as Denver is in the national airspace system, and JFK and LAX and Houston and Seattle, we're not that airport. And these are the values of our airport and what we are proud to call in our community, Colorado Small Airport, where small is friendly, neighborly, comfortable, helpful, and in so many ways, small is big. So Aiden and Dana are on this call here. You all had a chance to meet them here. And they, along with our consultant who worked with us, the narrator group, put this together. And I have to tell you, it was a bit of a hard sell to the mayor right at first, but he went along with it. And I'm really, really proud to say we won a national award for a branding from the Airports Council International. We beat out SeaTac, we beat out San Francisco, and then Allentown, Pennsylvania as the 4 finalists for that award. So very proud of our team for the work they did. And most importantly, proud that our focus is about taking care of our community. Our focus is about providing service to our community. We may trip over ourselves once in a while. I'm not going to sit here and say we're perfect, but that is our goal, and that is what we aim for, and that is what we're proud to be. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit here. We've done some work in the terminal. So how many remember this? So this was April 17th of 2018, when the fire in the terminal put us all kind of behind the 8 ball, and the airport actually had to shut down commercial service for 1 day. In the end, the total cost of the work that we did in sort of refurbishing and bringing the terminal back to standard, but then also the opportunity to remodel and do upgrades, was about $11.5 million. Amazing what a little smoke and water through the building can do. But that is a silver lining, that it no longer looks like this. It looks like this. And if you haven't been back to the terminal in a while, you may have to check your GPS when you get inside and make sure that you're in the right place, because it really, not just by my word, but it really came out great. And we really had an awful lot of really nice compliments. And it was nice to be able to do those kind of upgrades. So we've done the full public side on all 3 floors. The 3rd floor is just our admin offices. So we will be doing the concourse for an upgrade relatively soon. So when I talk to people and when we look on our social media, we really only get 3 complaints about the airport. One of them is more flights. Absolutely understand that, and that's something that we work on every day. Lower fares. Well, I'm excited because Southwest, I think, brings that to the community, and that we'll see more of that. And the third one is covered parking. Anybody know why we'd like to have covered parking at Colorado Springs Airport, particularly in the summer?
So our cars don't get smashed by hail.
Hail season.
Solar energy.
Exactly right. So what you're seeing here, and this is, maybe a little silly here, but a bit of a demonstration project, kind of a pilot project, because to be honest, to build a garage, a parking garage, great idea. But when the cost for a parking garage by current standards is $22,000 to $25,000 per space, it's pretty expensive. And what it would force us to do is raise our parking rates. And we don't want to do that. That is one of the things that we think makes Colorado Springs great, is because it's not as expensive to park as it is at Denver. So what if we could do solar covered parking where we get the cover, but we also get the energy benefit back to the grid and reduction of our own energy usage, and are able then to provide covered parking within the parking lots. So we did an RFP with the utilities, Colorado Springs Utilities, a great partner of ours. And we're right now kind of scratching our way through that to see what we can make of it. It won't happen tomorrow. I'm gonna tell you, but it is something that's a priority to me, and something that I really, really would like to see, is for us to be able to provide some covered parking in the parking lot, even if it's just part of the parking lot. And then you get to decide if you want to be under it or not. So that's just something that we're working on. So a lot more going on at the airport than commercial service, as important as that is. And that, brings me to this picture here, which every time I look at it, my jaw just drops, because 7,200 acres, that's as big as JFK and LaGuardia airports combined. So that's a big piece of property. Our airport is as big as Chicago O'Hare. So of course, as you look at this map, everything in the sort of foreground, that's actually looking north, that's all Peterson Air Force Base. So probably most of you know this, but just to share, if you don't, Peterson Air Force Base is actually a tenant on the airport. That's actually city property that the Air Force Base is on. But they are our biggest tenant, obviously, and one that we're incredibly proud to have on the airport and to be partners with. And instead of rent, they provide all our firefighting services. So it's really a great relationship, and we're proud of that. So we're still hoping that Space Command ends up on Peterson Air Force Base. But even if it doesn't, there are significant missions on the base, and more that will continue to grow Peterson. So I mentioned commercial service, talk about Peterson. Beyond that, let's see, we were talking earlier here, and Joe, I think you were saying that you got took your flight lessons and learned to fly at the Colorado Springs Airport. And so we have a whole side of the airport that is corporate and general aviation. And then we have what we call, the green here at the bottom of the map, our non-aeronautical business park, Peak Innovation Park. So I'm going to speed through a couple of these here, but I just want you to know that we take business at the airport just as seriously as we take the commercial side. They're different tenants, but they're just as important to us. And we have, our own basket of incentives at the airport to try and make it work for and make it easy for businesses to say yes to COS. The most recent of those is Opportunity Zone. And the Opportunity Zone, as you can see in this, the census tract covers the full airport. And it is because of the business park and the interest in the Opportunity Zone, we've seen a lot of business. We've seen a lot of growth. And that is our business park. 900-acre master plan business park. It is part of the airport. So if you ask, well, why does an airport own a business park or have a business park on their property? It's for this reason. One, it's land that could never really realistically access the runway or taxiway system. So it's basically just sitting there. And the other piece is When the economy goes up and down, we, like every business, are looking for sort of some breadth in our revenue streams. And having the business park allows us then to focus on economic development, bring businesses that then we derive revenue from, that helps us manage these turbulent times, particularly right now in the pandemic. So what's been happening here? You can see the little map there, but bottom line, Amazon. So Amazon opened one facility at the end of October of 2019, and that's what they call a last mile distribution center. You may have seen recently they've announced at a couple of other places in the city they'll be building other last mile distribution centers. But the sort of the king of construction in our business park is this, the fulfillment center. 3.7 million square feet. You know, by my anecdotal research, that's more than twice as big as any other building in the state of Colorado. 5 stories tall, 3.7 million square feet. It is the only building visible from outer space. So they are working hard on that round the clock, 7 days a week. That building is scheduled to open by the end of June of this year. And by all counts, they're on schedule. You can see the picture of the last mile distribution center. But beyond that, they've added another facility as well. And that facility just got under construction recently. And it's a 280,000 square foot, what they call sortation center. I guess if you're Amazon, you can make words up. So the 3 buildings there, by the time they're fully occupied and in full steam operation, we anticipate there could be more than 5,000 employees working out in the business park on different shifts, not all at the same time. A question came up earlier about the traffic at the business park and what we expect to see. A full traffic study was done, vetted by the city, the county, the state, because Powers, of course, is a state highway, technically. And the traffic plan indicates that we will see and full build out over 80,000 trips out of that business park per day. And the roadways are built to handle that, but you're definitely going to see more traffic coming out of the business park. Now, it's not going to happen, you know, overnight. The plan is certainly a plan all the way through 2045. So it'll take some time to build that out. So just a few more slides really here. Aerospace Corporation has started construction and is, in fact, the steel is up, the towers for the elevator shafts are up, and they're continuing to work on this 90,000 square foot building that is a $100 million space warfighting lab for the work that they do for DoD and the Air Force and Space Command. The Forest Service is building down at the southeast corner of the airport, but along the runway. We built jointly with them a de-icing / aerial firefighting ramp, and they have just started work on buildings that will be the most advanced regional aerial firefighting base in the country, able to handle every aircraft in their fleet and able to respond in at least a 600-mile radius. So, you know, great addition, thrilled that we're able to support that kind of development at the airport. We also have 2 hotels that we're talking with that are Marriott branded hotels, and we hope by early next year to start construction on that. So the benefits, just like at Denver, they've got the hotels that are along Tower Road. You know, for us to have hotels that are in the area of the airport, when you consider that we don't just serve Colorado Springs, our what we call service area or catchment area has passengers coming from all the way from northern New Mexico, in some cases, western Kansas. They don't have other options. And so to have a hotels here on the airport, we think is a added benefit too. So bottom line, I'm not gonna run through these, but everything in orange here, or orange, everything in the red here is under construction right now. So where do we go from here? I mean, I'll kind of close out with this. We fill airplanes, and we've done well in that regard, and the airlines know that. And that's part of what helps Southwest make the decision to come here. So I'm coming back to commercial service because that's important and something that we want to continue to work on. But you see right here, we average, our average load pre-COVID was 84% full. So we're doing a great job of filling airplanes. In fact, we benchmark a bunch of other airports, and we're right at the top of the list of those airports and filling aircraft. Oops. I mentioned Baltimore. The Washington area is our #1 priority. There are so many people that travel for military, for DoD contractors, and we would love to have a viable route to the East Coast, to the DC area. And so that is one of our top priorities. We had a meeting just last week with United. You know, we continue to talk with others and would love to see that. Another high priority for us would be San Francisco or the Bay Area. With Southwest, potentially it could be Oakland. With United, it would be likely San Francisco. And beyond that, there's our wish list, everybody. We would love to see, you know, all of these routes served, recognizing that the big carriers, legacy carriers, operate in hub and spoke. You're not going to get a United flight from here to Poughkeepsie, you know, or here to Tulsa. You're going to get a flight to a hub. But these are markets that we think have great potential and that we talk to airlines about. We have a whole air service development marketing team, including a really sharp air service development manager who came from United Airlines after a 27-year career there and is doing great things. In fact, it was his first week here that we got the call from United or from Southwest saying they'd like to think about service. And I just wondered, well, Joe, what are you going to do in your next week here? So beyond the carriers that we have right now, and this is the last slide, is we would love to see these other carriers as well. And these are some of the potential routes that we see as opportunities from them. And with that, I'm happy. I know we're right at 1:30 here, but I'm happy to take any questions that anybody might have. So,
Greg, thank you so much for this great presentation. Ladies and